Hey everybody, we have some interesting developments specifically with regards to Glock handguns. And I am not normally a breaking news guy, but Glock is one of the most popular handguns in America when it comes to personal protection. So today I want to talk about kind of the state of things and a major announcement. I'm recording this video on October 20th that is really taking things by fire with regard to Glock handguns and an announcement today by Glock.
BakerTargets.com is where I get the targets you see me shoot all the time on Active Self-Protection Extra. They ship fast, their prices are great, and they have all kinds of targets, both for competitive shooting, defensive shooting, and fun too. Check them out.
Well, let me clarify what I just said there. It really wasn't announced by Glock publicly, but it was sent to, or at least told by several of their most significant retailers that, and including one I want to look at here from Glock Store. And Glock Store is, I think, one of the couple of largest retailers of Glock handguns in America. And they said they put out a release that we've received news that as of November 30th, again, this is Glock Store, as of November 30th, all Glocks are discontinued, except for the 43, 43X, and 48. Their announcement there says 48X, they mean 48. All Glocks will be replaced with the new Glock V models. These will have changes that prevent switch conversions. At launch, all will be non-MOS, so non-optics ready, no pricing changes, and still working to confirm new information. That was a major thing today. That is certainly in response to California on October 10th, so just 10 days ago, Governor Newsom signed a law that basically bans the sale of Glock handguns. And let me show you why here. I think that there's a bunch here, a lot of it political, a lot of it garbage. I'm taking this gun apart, but I'm going to take it apart off camera because I don't want the YouTube bots to get at me. And that is in particular, what you're going to see here is that Glock handguns here. We'll see if I can get you a decent look at it. Kind of doubt it the way that the camera works, but they have this little cruciform trigger bar right here. Okay, so there is a little trigger bar there that looks like a little cross. And in particular, because the back plates of Glocks, I've got it apart, right? So the back plate on a Glock here, you can see on the side over here has a little hole in it. And because of that, some enterprising folks have made a conversion device that now you can 3D print. You can just go online and look for they're commonly known as giggle switches, that you can attach and replace the base plate. It's pretty easy to remove the base plate of a Glock. You push down a little retainer piece here, the base plate will come right off, and you can replace that with something else. I recommend you replace it with a striker control device. You get those, Langdon Tactical makes them. Fantastic adjustment to a Glock pistol. But you can also replace it with a switch that, if you flip the switch, turns the gun and it depresses the sear safety. And so therefore the gun is able to fire automatically, full auto fire. Now that is converting a Glock into a machine gun. That is, if you don't register it, and you can't register new machine guns because of the Hughes Amendment. So you can't do that. That is not legal for you to do. So anybody even being in possession of a Glock giggle switch, so 3D printing one, being in possession of it is a federal felony because you have a machine gun conversion device that's not registered. And that's bad, right? Now that said, if you go Google some news stories, I'll put some stuff in the description for you. These are getting really common among punks on the street. In fact, they've gone up exponentially since they've been able to be 3D printed. And I think, if I looked at them correctly, the ATF said they've taken in, again, it's like a big increase over the last 5 years as 3D printing has become more economical. And so what Glock is like, okay, so in their Gen 5 pistols, what they did was, so this isn't a Gen 5, right? But right here on the base, they put a little, and I don't own one, I don't own a Gen 5, but they put a little bump on the frame of the gun that keeps it, that blocks this little bit here and keeps it from being able to be accessed. But California said no dice. And so they passed a law outlawing the sale of any pistol with a cruciform trigger bar, Glocks and Glock clones, probably, I think somewhere around probably half of handguns have it, that cruciform trigger bar, and that can be easily converted to fire fully auto. Now that doesn't make illegal. It does not criminalize the possession of those guns. It does not criminalize having any guns that exist on the and it doesn't take any guns off the roster that I'm aware of, but it says you can't sell them anymore after January 1st. And so now, of course, there's been lawsuits on that. The NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation and a gun store in Poway and a couple of plaintiffs have filed to block that law, saying it's unconstitutional. We'll see how all that goes out at the Supreme Court. Now, I can show you there are other styles here. This is a VP9A1K. So if I take this guy apart, don't have to press the trigger for that. That's a little better. And if you look here on the way that its trigger works, I don't have the ability to really, go in real close for you on that. But if you look, it doesn't have that cruciform trigger bar, right? So there are lots of ways to do this. And I'm not, the only reason I'm showing you the HK here, I promise you, I'm not being a homer or a shill on that. I just have it available in the safe. And that one's an easy one for me to show it to you that has a different kind of trigger bar on it. So a couple of things on that, something to be aware of. Number one, I'm just going to give you my opinion. I think it's stupid. I think, saying, oh, well, it can be easily converted. But it's easily converted by making illegal parts and then installing those parts to make an illegal firearm. And that doesn't seem to be the fault of the manufacturer to me. And that's how I'd argue it in court. We'll see if that holds up. Secondly, though, I think there's actually an interesting thing here that Glock is getting ahead of this. So what's happening is they said they're all going to be replaced with a V model that won't be easily converted using the giggle switch. And so Glock is just getting ahead of this problem. Now, also, if you look, I'll put a news story linked in the description. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read it a little bit easier. It says, pressure has also come in the form of lawsuits against Glock. States including New Jersey, Minnesota, Maryland, cities including Baltimore, Chicago, and Portland have all filed suits against the company in recent years, claiming it has allowed for the proliferation of machine guns by facilitating the sale of guns that are easily converted. And so this to me is Glock just getting ahead of those problems, getting ahead of the lawsuits, ahead of California making them illegal. Well, fine, we've got other ones that aren't, and so we can go on and sale. And California sales are incredibly important. I know some people are like, well, you can't buy guns in California anyways. Actually, California accounts for, it's the number 3 state in the union for firearms sales every year. I think only Florida and Texas have more gun sales every year in America than California does. So California is an incredibly important market for everyone. So Glock is just getting ahead of this. And I know some people are kind of freaking out. Oh my God, all my Glocks are discontinued. They're just basically changing over to a new design. And why didn't they do the 43, the 43X, the 48? Different trigger bar design, right? I don't own one, so I don't have one sitting here in the safe for you to show you. But trust me, that's what it is. It is a different design. And so it, again, doesn't criminalize ownership of existing guns. That could come later for sure. So what does this mean for you and for me? Well, it does mean, and listen, I've shot an actual Glock 18, right? Which is a 17 that has a full auto conversion in it. Not a 17 with a giggle switch, like an actual imported, registered Glock 18. There's actually video of it, me doing it on the Instagrams. Okay, it's useless. It's, it fires so fast. You're talking 1,200 rounds per minute. It's completely uncontrollable. It's not a useful tool for anybody for defensive purposes. But also I think you should be able to order an M249 Bravo delivered Amazon Prime same day if you're not a prohibited possessor. So I disagree with the Hughes Amendment in its entirety, quite frankly. What does it mean for you and me? It doesn't criminalize the possession of anything. Glock will start sending quickly, I'm sure, their new V models out to their wholesalers and therefore into their retailers. And I actually think it's really interesting that they're getting ahead of this. This is like the exact opposite tack that Sig Sauer USA is taking. Like Sig has denied all problems with the 320 and are fighting it tooth and nail. Honestly, I mean, I'm not a prophet or nothing, and I don't have any inside information here, but I think that's going to come back to bite Sig and could, impact the company negatively from a financial perspective to the point where I mean, could be all the way to bankrupting the company. I don't know. I don't have any inside baseball here. I'm not telling you like insider stuff that John has. I'm just telling you, my common sense calibrated thumb sticking out there and saying, what does that look like? Whereas Glock is just being proactive about it and going, fine, we're done with that. We are going to institute a better redesign that would be much harder to put this full auto conversion on. And that way we can go from there. Now, I am a Second Amendment absolutist. Again, ASP, we believe that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that involves also, I think, the private ownership of full auto firearms. And I think that the Second Amendment has that within its purview because, again, anything that an infantry soldier needs to mount up and to defend their community, that would include fully automatic shoulder fired as well as maybe hand fired firearms, I think are well within the purview of the Second Amendment. And I think that over time, given Bruin, given Heller, given Otis, McDonald versus Chicago, given all of those, I think, over the next 10, 15 years, we'll see that kind of work its way through the court system. And I think that's where we'll come out at. But I also think, don't freak out too much. I don't think it makes your guns illegal. You Californians, those of us who don't live in California, doesn't affect us personally. I actually think, though, that it is a savvy move on Glock's part, getting ahead of the problem and just saying, okay, fine, we've redesigned the gun because we disagree wholeheartedly, but we also want to be able to sell guns in California. So they say we can't sell this model anymore. Here's a new model. It works. And it is not readily convertible. And so ipso facto, we can continue to sell these in California. I think that's a smart business decision on Glock's part, especially because of how important California is as a market. So I think it's, again, the exact opposite tack of Sig Sauer. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the lawsuit goes that the Second Amendment Foundation and the NRA and, Poway Guns have filed. We'll see how all that plays out. That's going to take years. Hopefully, again, Ninth Circuit's coming around. California's a Ninth Circuit state. I live in Arizona, also a Ninth Circuit state. And the Ninth Circuit has gotten a whole lot better on gun rights than they have been historically. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, they get an immediate injunction while it plays out and gets its way to the highest court. Because this is going to end up at the Supreme Court. You just know it's going to. And we'll see how it goes. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments, but let's make sure we keep them respectful, okay? Hope you have a great day.